room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we had great conversation in our group. It was a lovely diverse group across different sectors actually. We were hearing from Carolyn, who runs the health centres in Mansfield and does exercise classes and exercise intervention at the health centres, and is really keen to use her service to plug some gaps that we've got in our community, which is really great. She told a wonderful story about a lady with MS who could barely leave her wheelchair before she started the classes, and by the end of it walked the entire length of a gym, which is incredible. And then another lady that couldn't stand up to do her cooking, and by the end of the class was spending 3 hours walking around one of the markets. And that just shows the power, I think, of activity and the power that it has in our lives. And we were talking about that personalization and how it's so important. Just doing physio exercises is boring, but personalizing that care and those interventions we give to people can really help motivate them to be more active. What is it that is meaningful to them? And then finally, we were talking about the medical profession. And how a lot of people think, when they feel pain or when they're ill or when they're injured, the best thing to do is to stop doing everything, and maybe to visit your GP and ask them if it's okay to do things. And Dr. Tansley in our group said, actually, that's not the best thing to do. It's best to keep moving, and doctors don't really deal with health. We deal with illness. We deal with disease, and we don't deal with the healthy side of things and the getting better and the continuing activity. And so he was really highlighting the power of the multidisciplinary and I've forgotten the word. Thanks, dyslexia. But the multi-sector, there we go, approach to care and to activity, and how important it is, and how really, whilst we think the medical profession are leaders in that, we all need to come in and be leaders alongside each other. So that was really great to hear. So thanks, guys, for that good chat.
Thanks so much, Beth. That was a really great overview of that. Be interesting whether we're going to have some similar points come out or whether there's some different conversations. So I'll go to Will next. That's all right, Will.
Will actually didn't have a group, so his group merged with Beth. So yeah.
Oh, okay, no worries.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Claudia, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, similar to Beth, a really positive breakout room, and what we said was really lovely, particularly given some of the infographics that Alice shared earlier around that frustration with silo working, was to have a group of people that was so keen to connect and collaborate and join up services. And there were lots of sharing of email addresses, and even people realizing they worked in the same building, and really positive with people, were lots of follow-up actions. And we all agreed that actually just having that time and space in everyone's really busy lives to discuss, to hear about things, to make those connections really positive. But I think a really interesting conversation that we talked about was and off the back of our earlier conversation, the earlier speakers that we had, and I'm just trying to remember his name, which is really awful, from Alan, around that connection with Lanark Leisure Centre. We're saying that had inspired lots of thoughts and ideas within the group, particularly around getting the right balance between clinical and community. And we talked about how quite often within the NHS it can become a bit of a safety blanket for people, which in one way is really positive, the trust they have in their practitioners, but sometimes they can almost leave that responsibility at the door, so to speak. So then whatever that intervention runs out, we then get that revolving door of people coming back in 6 months' time or a year's time. So we talked about how we can support the community to be part of that pathway in a mutually beneficial way. So you know, groups such as Claire's Good Companions in Clifton that provide a lot of support, how can they also access support from OTs, from practitioners, to really hopefully get that nice balance between clinical and community, and hopefully help people to build it into lifestyle rather than just intervention around a fall.
Brilliant, thanks Claudia. I'll actually just chip in because from our group in South Notts, because there was the similar theme there about talking about Vicky, talking for Vicky, feel free to come off mute if I get this wrong, but from a therapy falls perspective, Vicky was talking about wanting to get better at a service of putting trust in and those connections with the voluntary and community sector, so that those who are on our waiting list who can be and are more suitable for community activity, to get them into that setting so that we can then provide that therapy care for the people who really need it. And we also had a whole bunch of brilliant OTs from the reablement team within County Council who, you know, do work with those kind of people. So there were some really great connections already going, and just others in the room talking about wanting to network and connect was a really key thing. And also something that we started to talk about, just a final point, was those of us who have got been trained in things like postural stability and Otago, that are putting it into practice in different settings, one-on-one or group-based, having that space. Some of us are already sharing some of that, you know, how we're getting on with that, maybe catching up with people in our teams about that. Some of us don't have that space to talk about how we're implementing that practice, so we're talking about what spaces might be helpful to do that in the future, so we can share some of that good practice. So I will move to Karen's group, if that's all right, Karen.
Yes, just got to find my unmute button. We had a great conversation. So we were at South Notts as well, and there was lots of appreciation and recognition around, and what I heard and saw was real passion and desire, reflecting real people, about that personalisation. I think it was a thread that ran through all three of the case studies that we heard in the main room, and that really came out with the individuals and the people that were in my particular group. So it was great to hear that there was some things came to light around communications and how they can do some of that better joined up working, and what might be helpful to be able to do that. So we'd gone into that, you know, one of the things that would be maybe really helpful, and recognizing there's loads out there, and lots of people are accessing some things but not everything, but understanding, you know, the plethora of resources or opportunities or learnings, and how that could be best accessed and shared, which might be something that as this COP might be something as that could be considered as something that was coming out strongly with this particular group. Yeah, and I think everyone was particularly where maybe there's that connections that within social care and hospital, the clinical side of things, sometimes there's a little bit of a disjoin there, and how that could be you know, better bridged, and what we needed to do to enable that to happen, as well as into that community provision as well. So that was probably the main parts of the conversation, but yeah, we could have gone on for a long time, and hopefully there'll be some more continual conversations. But there was a lot of input, particularly and that awareness around the reablement team as well, that are working across the county and in place as well.
Thanks, Karen. And yeah, please keep talking. Hopefully some of you have been exchanging emails. If there's somebody who you saw today who you'd love to get their email but you didn't get it, contact one of us in the project team. We'll make sure that is shared. Before going to the next group, just to remind you of the question, just to have a think about now whilst you're listening in, what your personal intention is around continuing to help to connect this falls prevention and physical activity work in your area. So there's some brilliant ones that are coming in, so have a look at those for some inspiration. But yeah, what's your intention? Even if it's just something which you think is very small, you need to call somebody, brilliant, pop it in, because it really helps to show what the benefit of some of these sessions are. Adele, I'm going to come to you next, please.
Oh, my power worked. I was here thinking, me next. only because some of the things follow on from Karen, so I thought it was ideal. So yes, a really nice group. For me, it was a bit of a reunion, people I've not seen for a while. So it was lovely, and there was lots of discussion. So we did come out with quite a few points, but there was lots of discussion. And the reason I wanted to follow on from Karen was the social care element. So Denise very kindly said, there's not enough of us here, we need to promote it more within my service, but we also need to tell them the selling points, what they're going to get out of it. So she felt that it was really beneficial being part of the group, and they needed to be in the group to understand what they were going to get out of it. There was a lot of discussion about raising awareness, again, following the line of a couple of others around what is available out there in our areas. And actually, I didn't have an understanding of some of the things that's out there still, etc., etc. So likewise, there'll be people, and it's how we do that. So some of the things we're looking at, do we need to, as a lady of mature years, look at some of the younger elements and find out ways of communicating things out? Do we need to look at social media? There's different ways to do things, we know. Forums, lots of things for getting that information out and sharing. And then the last one was, this was something quite pertinent to me as well, more than anything, in that we very much said about actually we need to learn from each other. And yes, these sessions are great for that, but we almost need longer, and we need specifics, if that makes sense. So I'm sure Denise won't mind me sharing, but one of the things that we talked about was falling at night time being an issue. And actually, we almost thought about something like, not a formal action learning set, but something along those lines where you come with a problem, you're thinking about what your solutions may be, you can sound it out with the team that's there. So as you're sharing ideas and you're troubleshooting between you, yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
I love that. Thanks, Adele. I love that action learning set idea. As much as that helps us to, I think, inform some of the future communities of practice, please take those ideas and run with them. Get in touch with someone you spoke to about it today, or one of the project team, are here to help with that kind of thing. So that between now and the next community of practice, some of those action learning sets could start. That would be fantastic. Claire, I'm going to come to you, and then Alice to finish off.
We too had a really exciting group pulled together, lots of discussions, and actually one of the things that came out was that within the city, people found that it would be really helpful if the group could meet maybe on a quarterly or 6 monthly basis in order to share new initiatives around assistive technology, or just invite new members of teams and just to get together. One of the big successes within the city is the co-location of the early intervention team alongside the falls and rehab team. So it makes those conversations much easier when you can just nip across the office to hold those discussions. And the falls and rehab team have also been working and building relationships with the orthopaedics unit at NUH, and that's resulted in lots of discussions and training. And one of the falls rehab team is going to go off and see if other providers could be part of those discussions, or see if the training that's on offer can be shared sort of across the system. The group also acknowledged that there's lots of underfunding in the city and across the system, in terms of we don't have those workers on a frontline footing that can go and support people that are living with mental health or dementia to get back out into the community to help them with their stability and their activity. And we also have issues around community transport. There's just not enough of that around to get people out and about. And we have seen an increase in adaptation waiting lists. But to overcome that, as I say, the group would really appreciate having the opportunity to get together on a more regular basis, and like Adele mentioned, having a database or some form of document that can share the services that are out there, what's on offer, and who the lead people are.
That's brilliant. Maybe Claire, Claudia, and myself can get heads together to bring those people together. That would be fantastic. City people. Alice, finish us off, please.
You've said it all already. It's amazing sitting listening to you. I'm going to try and not get too excited for the what next and focus on what my group discussed. We had a lovely group, mainly from Midnots, although we did have a lovely lady Bex from NUH who was very welcome in the Midnot space despite her working in the south. She brought really lovely contributions. We heard lots about really good work that's happening, about great work that's happening around that personalisation that others have talked about, and how important that personalisation was. To really get under the skin of what makes our patients tick and how we can involve them in activity, but also then how that leads through to more specific strength and balance activity. We had some great reflections on how actually small things have a huge impact, and how we can encourage that integrated working with encouraging just small things really make a big difference in terms of quality of life, but also in terms of promoting activity. One of the really lovely discussions I felt was around how people had been inspired by the previous speakers who we were thinking about that long-term goal, that long-term aim. There was a reflection from everybody in the room that we often just think about the bit that we're involved in and then the next bit after that, rather than those longer term ambitions. And I hope Sadie won't mind me sharing. She works in mental health acute services, and how she was going to start thinking about how can I incorporate this long-term goal that people want to achieve into my discharge planning, and having that connected conversation along that patient pathway. We also had some challenges raised in terms of how do we connect people in the community, some real practical things like how do people physically get to these places that they want to go when they haven't got the finances or the transport, and also the confidence, echoing some of what Claire's just said around who are the people we can get out there. So that real desire for wanting to know more and finding out each other's services, and actually often services that aren't healthcare services. So that real desire to connect with local libraries, for example, was mentioned. So it was a really lovely group. Thank you all.
Thanks, Alice. That sounds brilliant. I've taken loads of notes. I hope others have done too about that whole spectrum of feedback. Some really brilliant stuff coming out. And again, encourage, as we have been throughout the whole session, is please, share your intentions. Please keep those conversations going. And if you're stuck, come back to somebody that you've spoken to today, or one of us. And I know not everybody can access the chat, and I'm sorry for those that can't. But please do get in touch with us if you feel like you've missed anything today. With 15 minutes left and a power cut happening in Beth's office, I'm going to go to Beth to say, are you okay to wrap us up with futures?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
I thought I'd share with the group that there's stuff going on in the background.
Thanks. Yeah, me and anyone else at Sherwood Forest may be affected, or at Kingsmill at least. Fortunately, I've got a laptop, so at least one of my screens stayed on. But apologies, guys. I think the backup generators kicked in, so hopefully our ICU patients will all be fine from now on. There's a real hunger out there, isn't there, to connect? That is what we've heard every time we've done one of these events, and that is what we've heard today, that we really want to hear from each other and we want to connect with each other between these events. And so as a community of practice project team, we have tried to do something to address this. I want to encourage you guys that whilst we are a project team, this community of practice is yours. We are not the community of practice, us 5 project team members. You guys are the community of practice, and so the ownership is yours, and it's really, really important that it is yours. But what we have done to try and help this connection in between events is create an online space for us to talk to each other. And the space we've used is called Future NHS, or NHS Futures. It's kind of like Facebook, but for healthcare professionals. For members of the NHS, you should have no problem accessing this. It should be really, really simple, which is great. For people that aren't members of the NHS, I really, really apologise that it's going to be a little bit more complicated for you. And so what you need to do, I'll put the link in the chat, is If you follow the link that I've put in the chat, it will take you to this page that asks you to request access. If you request access and you are an NHS member, you just need to make an account, type in your email, and the invite will come to us and I'll approve you. If you don't have an NHS email, don't worry. Request access, and then it will prompt you to, next slide please, Alice, doing my Chris Whitty impression. It will prompt you to use the contact us form to say that you would like the access for our community of practice. If you use that contact form and put your email in and just say that you want the Nottinghamshire Falls and Physical Activity Community of Practice, they will sort you out with access, hopefully. Now, I have done a dummy run with my personal email and it didn't go so well, although this is what they've advised to me. So if you've done all the right things and you still can't access that online platform, if you please just email me your email address, and I'll put my email address in the chat, I will add you manually, and then we can get you on the platform. There's a space there to chat on a forum, to share files. Our illustrations are there. It's a space to share best practice, to share stories with each other, to continue this really good work we've got going on. So I'd really, really like to encourage you to just take a few minutes now as we sort of end our event for the day and sign up for that Futures platform, so we can continue this good work within the events. Because I don't know about you, but I feel so motivated to get out there and get people moving around and get people healthy again and connect with each other. And this is something we want to continue in between just these 2-hour events every quarter or so. So please do join that service that we have set up. Would you like a few minutes to do it now, just to troubleshoot? Oh, Denise, you've got a question. How can I help? Oh, you're on mute.
On mute. Yeah, I work for NCC and I did manage to join this community of practice a few weeks ago. I honestly can't remember what prompted me to do it, whether it was anything to do with falls or not. But I can't find this particular community of practice within it, even though I've inputted in the, I don't know whether the search with the search bar, you have to be very specific about what you're wanting to be part of.
Possibly, yeah. If you click on the link that I put in the chat, does it help there? Does that take you to our community?
Let me have a look. So
I can see some requests coming through already.
Can you? I can only see the link to your email. I can't see the link to the community of practice.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. Yes. Sorry, it's there. Oh, yes. I'm in. Yes, it's asking me to join it now. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
I'm in. Oh, it's asking. Yeah, okay.
Please bombard me with emails if you struggle to access this space. This space will only work well if we all join it and we all engage. And so I'm more than happy to work really hard to get you access to this space. So please email me if you have any troubles. Someone else has got their hand up. Alex.
Yeah, hi. I don't know. It says I can't access the chat, but it looks like lots of people have left the chat. So I think if you're putting things in there that can't see them.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened, but it looks like lots of people have left the chat and probably can't access it. Is that true?
That might well be true. So my email is bethany.carey@nhs.net. Very simple, one and only. No numbers.
Okay.
I think the other thing to say is we will follow up the event today with an email to you all. We've got everybody's email address through the sign up, but also through Teams here. So we'll definitely include all the details of the NHS Futures platform within that follow up email. Alex,
great.
because you work for Notts Healthcare, I can just email it to you now, so I can do that. But if you are struggling, then we can do that. And don't just bombard Beth, bombard me, bombard other members of the project team too, because we will be able to give you access, and our contact details we can pop in the chat now as well.
Brilliant. I think if we put all our contact details on the follow-up email as well, the conclusion email, hopefully one way or another, by hook or by crook, you'll get access. Unfortunately, online platforms often are complicated and not often that user-friendly. So work with us, bear with us, be patient, and we'll get there together. Right. I think that draws us more or less to a close, unless I've forgotten anything. That's quite right, Adam, and invite others. Yeah, it's not just the people that attend the events, anyone that you think may be interested. So I'll draw that session to a close. If you can keep thinking about what your intention after this event is, that'd be really, really great. Tweet it, email it, get it out there. Keep people moving. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. And keep your ears and your eyes open for ongoing work with this community of practice. But have a lovely rest of your Friday and have a lovely weekend. Do any other members of the group have anything else they want to follow up with? I've done a good enough job. Great. Lovely. Have a lovely weekend, guys. You guys take care. All right.
Thank you.
See you later.
Got anything we want to wrap up on? Adam, you still recording? Did it all go right, the recording?